If you've ever tried automating the creation of Google Documents using Make.com, then chances are you've probably come across the same problem that I have. The text is completely unformatted. There's no bold, no italics, no headings, nothing. Just a bunch of ugly, blocky text. If you know what I'm talking about and have been pulling your hair in frustration trying to figure out a solution for this, don't worry because there is a quick and simple fix that you can do right now. In today's video, I'll show you how to go from ugly documents like this to something like this. Nice and formatted text. And an added bonus is there's actually chapters and everything outlined for you with this document. And again, the best part about this is that it will happen completely automatically, no manual edits required. If that sounds good to you, awesome. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so here we are again with an example that shows you what the normal input into a Google Doc using Make.com would look like. As you can see, it's ugly. There's no formatting. There's no headings. There's no bold text, no italicized text, nothing like that. Make will just paste the plain text into Google Docs as such. Nobody wants that. It's ugly. What we want instead is something that looks like this. You got a properly formatted header, H1 tag, as you can see right here. You have some other subheadings, H2 tags. You got bold text and all other, a bunch of other good stuff. But before we get into the actual setup of this process, we need to talk about something very important, and that is Markdown formatting, Markdown text. And this is what you're seeing in this example. You got these hashtags here, as you can see, hashtag, double hashtag, single hashtag, asterisk, and so on. Markdown essentially is a form of syntax, which is just a fancy way of saying kind of like a way that you speak. It's kind of like code. Now, Markdown formatting, the purpose of this is so that you don't have to manually format text line by line manually. If you want bold text, you use asterisks. If you want a heading, you use hashtags, etc. Now, if you're like me and you use ChatGPT or any other AI tool to help you in your writing, you can easily instruct it to write in Markdown formatting. In my opinion, this is 100% the best way to have AI like ChatGPT write content for you. The reason for that is because once the AI gives you that content, it's already formatted. And so if you're using Google Docs like I do very often, you can paste that content into Google Docs and it will already be formatted for you. It'll look great from the get-go. Now, in order to leverage the benefits of Markdown within a Google Doc, you need to specifically tell Google that you're referencing Markdown. So to do this, essentially what you would do is copy your text. In this case, I've already copied it, but you know how to copy and paste text. Copy and paste your Markdown formatted text. And when you go to a Google document, you would right click and click on paste from Markdown. If you don't do that and just normally paste, you're going to have this result. It's not going to be formatted. You're just going to have all those annoying tags everywhere. So what you need to do is right click and hit paste from Markdown. Once you do that, bada bing, bada boom, there you go. But here's the problem. If you're automating document creation with Make.com like I do, that option doesn't exist. And by that option, I mean right-clicking and specifying paste from Markdown. You can't do that with Make.com's Google Document module. So in order to automatically paste with proper formatting, you need to convert the Markdown into HTML before sending it to Google Docs. And the reason for this is because Google Docs is able to recognize HTML text. As you can see here, this parameter supports HTML format. So here's what the automation looks like inside of Make.com. Let me give you a quick rundown of how it works. So the first thing is we get the content that we're going to work with. So in my case, I have a set variable just for the example's sake, but I created this content using ChatGPT and I had it formatted as Markdown. So this whole thing is Markdown formatted, and it's an example of a blog post. So you get your content, cool. The next thing is to take that content and use Make.com's built-in Markdown to HTML conversion module. Input that sucker there, set your import source, turn on sanitize, and we'll get more into that later. Hit save, and then feed the output from this module into a Google Doc create a document module. So within the content tab, you would put the HTML, which is the output from this module. Hit save, you're good to go. That's it. 3 simple steps, and we get beautifully formatted Google Documents every time automatically. All right, so now you have a basic overview of how this works. Let's go ahead and dive into it in a more detailed fashion so you understand each module and how they work with each other. So again, the first thing we need to do is get our source. Now, let me show you an example of another module. This is what would be a real world example that I use. So I have this audio to blog article automation. So what make.com is essentially doing is it's watching for a specific file being uploaded to a watch folder in my Google Drive. And once it's uploaded, it will trigger this automation. That file is an audio file which gets transcribed using DeepGram, which I'll make a dedicated video on that platform and how amazing it is at transcribing. And then it feeds the transcript into ChatGPT and writes an article for me. Now, the way that I leverage ChatGPT to the best of its ability, at least in my opinion, is whenever I have it generate content for me, I have another module or another prompt to humanize that content. So in this case, that's why I have two right here. I have write article and then humanize. But for this example, what I'm going to do is just use an output from a previous run. I'll take that. All right. And that's what I'm going to set as my input source for, again, for this example. In your case, you would be doing something else for the most part, either using ChatGPT as the input source or whatever, like I did in, this live example. But again, for this tutorial's sake, I'm going to manually hard code this into my automation. Cool. And remember, if you're using ChatGPT like I am, just instruct it to format your content in Markdown and it's going to work. So here's my content source in this scenario. Notice how there's a bunch of hashtags, hashtags, asterisk, hashtag, all that stuff. Again, that's Markdown tags. Cool. So we've got our content that we want to use in a new Google Doc. The next thing is to use a Markdown to HTML. And what you would do is just add a new module, search Markdown, and then it's right there, Markdown to HTML. That's what you're going to use to transform Markdown into HTML. All right, go away. Cool. So that's that module. You would set the input as the output from whatever you're using. So if you're using ChatGPT, the result, in my case, I'm using a set variable, so it's the output there. Now, very important, you want to enable this option right here called sanitize. The reason for that is because what this essentially does is it just adds some extra help to optimize the output, the HTML, for platforms like Google Docs. I've tried it with it disabled and it still does a good job, but in my experience, having it turned on it's just better. It's always better. Perfect. So save that. Sorry, I didn't click save. You hit save. And then the next thing is to actually create the document. So again, add a new module, Google Docs, create a document. Do not use the create a document from a template. That's for a different use case. I haven't been able to get that to work in this workflow, and I don't need to get into that right now, but you would just use the regular create a document module. All right, so get that bad boy set up. You want to, give it a name. Well, first things first, you obviously have to create a connection if you haven't done so already. Create a connection, add a title. In my case, again, I'm just putting a test, new doc test. And I have this tag here, which is essentially just writing a date, today's date, so that when the document is created, I have a better understanding of when this was created at a glance. Not totally necessary, but I like to do that. That's what this function is doing. Next thing is to choose a location for where you want to store this new document, your drive, and then just choose a folder or whatever. And then optionally, you can add a header or a footer. In my case, I am creating a footer just so that I have another source for me to understand when this was created and how, through a make.com automation. Unnecessary. That's just me. So ignore that. Hit save. Cool. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and run a test scenario so you see how it works from beginning to end. So I'll just go ahead and click run once. All right, converted the Markdown to HTML and it created a document. So let's look at all the outputs really quick. Here is the output from basically my input, not that important. Now here is the output from the Markdown to HTML. So the input is Markdown formatting. As you can see, here are the tags, asterisk, hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. And the output is a huge HTML string. You got H1 tags, ID, strong, P for paragraph, H2, P. All right, those are a bunch of HTML tags. And what you do is you feed that into this module to create the document. All righty, let's go ahead and see what the result looks like. And there you go. There you have it. This is the document that was just created. Notice we got the beautiful H1 tag for this title. You got some bold text here, header twos. Yep, header twos. It's just nice and formatted. And the footer, again, this is just me. You don't have to do that, but my footer was inputted there with the actual date, as well as the title. See, new doc test, that's what I had it set as the title, plus that function to create a date, which is today, February 13th, 2025. And again, one of the best parts about doing this with Google Docs is that it creates an outline for you, especially if you use Markdown formatting. it creates an outline for you that's just, really easy to navigate through. All right, well, there it is. That's a perfectly formatted Google document created 100% automatically. All right, so now that we have this thing working, let's talk about why and where this can be useful for you. Well, for example, if you're a blogger or you're writing blog article content, this is actually how I use it. I have AI generate drafts for my blog articles, and then I, revise them and whatnot, but I have it output as Markdown, and then I paste that into a Google document so that I have a backup source of my article. Great. Basically, anytime that you want to use the creation of Google Docs or a Google Doc for some kind of content, this is a great automation for you. This method saves a ton of time and is 100% reliable. I have not had it mess up, not even once. And again, the best part is that it requires absolutely no manual input. If you set up your system properly and you have an input trigger that does it automatically for you, then again, it's completely automated. You have no manual tasks to do this. So there you have it. This is a simple and efficient and reliable way to automate the creation of Google Documents and have the content be properly formatted in a very, very nice way. No more dealing with ugly, boring documents, just clean, structured, and sexy documents every single time. If you found this video useful, make sure to like and comment down below. And don't forget that you can download this blueprint in the description below. I have a link so that you can download this blueprint and import that into your own make.com account, create a new scenario, click on the three little dots, import blueprint, and then you can use this scenario for yourself. If you have absolutely any questions or ideas for videos, let me know down in the comments below as well, and I'll do my best to get those out as soon as possible. My goal is to help you automate as much as possible and scale your revenue like never before. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.